Forever Winter is a game that doesn't ask for your attention, it demands it. From the moment you step into its frozen, war-torn world, you're overwhelmed by the sheer scale of devastation. The sky is choked with ash, the ground is littered with the remnants of a war that never ends, and somewhere in the middle of it all is you, a scavenger, a survivor, a ghost. There's no warm welcome, no heroic music, no promise of glory, just the distant hum of machines built for destruction. It's a world that feels like it's already lost, and you're just one more piece of debris caught in the storm. But as I play, hour after hour, one question keeps echoing in my mind. Why am I here? Not just in the literal sense, what's my mission, but in the existential one. What's my place in this world? What am I fighting for? Why am I trying to survive? This isn't just a question about gameplay mechanics. It's a question about meaning, about purpose, about the emotional core that drives us to keep playing, keep exploring, keep hoping. And when a game this bleak doesn't offer that core, it leaves you drifting. Let's be clear. The Forever Winter nails atmosphere. It's a masterclass in ambience. The world feels lived in, or rather died in. Every corner of the map tells a story of collapse. Burned out vehicles, crumbling buildings, frozen corpses half buried in snowbanks. It's haunting. The sound design is oppressive in the best way. You hear distant gunfire, the chatter on nearby enemy comms, the crunch of snow underfoot. Sometimes it's the silence that's most terrifying. That moment when everything goes quiet, and you wonder if someone or something is about to kill you. There's no tutorial pop-ups, no glowing objective markers. You learn by surviving. You adapt or you die, and that's part of its brilliance. You build strength through adversity, struggling in order to succeed. And when you do, it feels earned. The game doesn't just simulate survival, it embodies it. You feel the weight of every decision, every bullet fired, every step taken into the unknown. It's immersive in a way that few games manage, and that immersion is powerful. But here's the thing. Atmosphere isn't story. It's the stage, not the play. It's the mood, not the meaning. And while the Forever Winter builds one of the most compelling stages I've seen in years, it never quite gives you a reason to perform. There's lore, sure. The world of Forever Winter is built on a foundation of geopolitical collapse, AI warfare, and a three-way conflict between Eurasia, Europa, and Euruska. The factions are terrifying. The war machines even more so. You feel like a bug crawling between giants. There are hints of ideological schisms, technological arms races, and betrayals that reshape the planet. You can tell that the developers put thought into this world. It's not just random chaos, it's structured chaos. But lore is not the same as narrative. Lore is the backdrop. It's the paint on the canvas. But a story? A story is the art made with that paint. It's the timeline of the brushstrokes and why they were put where they were. The meaning, the emotion, the connection. And that's what's missing. You're a scavenger, that's all we know. No name, no past, no purpose beyond survival. And while that might be intentional, an invitation to project yourself into the void, it also leaves a vacuum where emotional investment should be. Imagine if the factions weren't just names on a map, but ideologies you could explore. If the AI warfare wasn't just a premise, but a mystery you could unravel. The collapse wasn't just a setting, but a tragedy you could feel. That's the difference between lore and story. One gives you context, the other gives you connection. Without a story, there's no arc, no growth, no relationships. You don't mourn anyone. You don't fight for anything. You're not trying to get home or find someone or uncover a secret. You're just there. And that's the tragedy, because the world feels like it has stories to tell. You see the ruins of lives once lived. You hear the echoes of a civilization that tore itself apart, but you never get to live any of it. You're a passerby in a world that makes you want to stay. But, credit where credit's due, there are glimmers. The Forever Winter isn't entirely devoid of narrative. Two questlines in particular stand out as exceptions to the rule: Lordas and Bunko. Lordas, a grizzled scavenger with a haunted past, offers one of the few glimpses into personal history. His questline slowly unravels fragments of who he was before the war, what he lost, and why he keeps going. It's not a sweeping epic, but it's something. It's a thread. And in a world this bleak, even a thread can feel like a lifeline. His story adds texture to the world. a proof that people existed before the snow swallowed everything. Then there's Bunko, a shadowy figure who doesn't even appear in-game. Bunko operates through terminals and whispers. His quest line is unlocked only after earning high standing with the scavenger faction, and it's filled with cryptic tasks and layered objectives. What makes Bunko fascinating isn't just the gameplay, it's the implication. He hints at something bigger, something final, a possible ending. That's huge, because up until that point, the Forever Winter feels endless, a loop of survival with no resolution. But Bunko's cryptic remarks suggest there might be a way out, a purpose, a conclusion. It's not spelled out, but it's there, buried beneath the bodies. These two quest lines prove that the Forever Winter is capable of storytelling. They show that the developers can create compelling characters, emotional stakes, and narrative momentum. The problem is, they're the exception, not the rule. Most players will never stumble across them, and even if they do, they're isolated moments in a game that otherwise feels narratively hollow. Imagine if every scavenger had a story like Lordos, if every faction leader had secrets like Bunko, if the world was filled with these quiet personal arcs, threads that when woven together form a tapestry of meaning. That's the missing arc, not just for the player, but for the world itself. Now, not every game needs a cinematic narrative. FromSoft has set an amazing example of how you can have a rich and in-depth lore that takes a back seat to gameplay. There aren't long cutscenes and text boxes full of exposition. They whisper it through item descriptions, cryptic NPCs, and the architecture of the world itself. And that's exactly the kind of storytelling the Forever Winter could embrace. Imagine if every ruined building held a clue. Every scavenged item had a history. If the war machines weren't just terrifying enemies, but relics of a forgotten ideology. You could play the game exactly as it is now. Focused, tactical, brutal. But for those who want more, the story would be waiting. Beneath the bodies, between the gunshots. This kind of narrative doesn't interrupt gameplay, it enhances it. It rewards curiosity. It builds community. Players sharing theories, piecing together the timeline, debating the origins of factions. It turns a survival game into a mystery, a puzzle, a legend. And the best part? The Forever Winter wouldn't have to change its mechanics. It would just need to plant seeds and let the players decide if they want to follow the roots. Think about how Outer Wilds handled this. A game with no combat, no leveling, no traditional progression, just exploration and discovery. And yet it's one of the most emotionally resonant games of the last decade. Why? Because every piece of the world was a part of a larger story. Every ruin had meaning. Every clue led somewhere. Now imagine that same philosophy applied to the Forever Winter. You're not just surviving, you're uncovering. You're not just scavenging, you're remembering. You're not just fighting, you're questioning. That's the kind of depth that this game could reach. In September of this year, the Forever Winter took a bold step forward. Fundog Studios announced a partnership with Dark Horse Comics, a name synonymous with rich atmospheric storytelling. Alongside legendary mech artist Kao Yokoyama, they began crafting a comic series set in the game's universe. And that's exciting. It means the developers know that there's a story worth telling. It means they're investing in the lore, the factions, and the world building. It's a signal to the players. There's more beneath the ice. But here's the catch. It's all outside the game. Comics are great. They expand the universe, they give fans something to chew on between sessions, but they're not a substitute for in-game narrative. They're an appetizer, not the main course. And here's the risk. When story lives only in external media, it creates a disconnect. Players who don't read the comics miss out, newcomers feel lost, and the emotional weight of the game world becomes fragmented. Think of Destiny, a game with incredible lore, but most of it was locked away in grimoire cards and external websites. It took years for Bungie to bring that story to the game itself, and when they did, the experience transformed. Suddenly players weren't just grinding, they were invested. The partnership with Dark Horse is a chance to build something beautiful, but it has to be more than just a side project. It has to feed back into the game. Let the comics introduce the characters that we meet in-game. Let them foreshadow events that we can uncover. Let them be the prologue, not the epilogue. So what would it mean to bring story into the gameplay? Not through cutscenes or exposition dumps, but through discovery. It could be subtle, organic, embedded in the world itself. But it could also be interactive, tangible, something that pulls you deeper into the frostbitten mystery. Imagine cracking open a lock crate in a forgotten outpost. Inside, you find a data log, encrypted, damaged, but partially readable. You bring it to a vendor in the scavenger faction, and the reaction isn't transactional, it's personal. The log belonged to a missing friend, someone they thought was dead, and suddenly you're not just turning in loot, you're starting a quest line. One that leads you across faction borders, into hostile territory, chasing rumors and fragments of a life that might still be out there. Or picture rescuing a prisoner from a collapsed bunker. They're weak, disoriented, barely responsive, but once stabilized, they reveal themselves to be a high-ranking member of the Euruscan Command. Not an enemy, but a defector. And instead of a reward and gear, you're given something far more valuable: insight. Access to faction archives. A glimpse into the ideology, schisms, the betrayals that fracture their leadership. It's not just lore, it's context, and it changes how you see the war. These aren't just side quests, they're emotional hooks, they're narrative catalysts. They give weight to your actions and texture to the world, and they don't require cinematics or voice acting, just smart writing, thoughtful placement, and a willingness to trust the player's curiosity. Let players piece together the fall of the Eurasia through scattered documents. Let them discover the origins of the AI war machines through half-buried terminals. Let them find the remnants of a family trying to escape the collapse through photos, notes, and the layout of their abandoned homes. This kind of storytelling doesn't slow the game down, it deepens it, and makes every scavenging run a potential revelation. Every firefight a moment of context. Every death a reminder of what was lost. The Forever Winter is a game I admire. It's bold, it's brutal, it's unforgettable, but I believe it could be more. Not just a battlefield simulator, not just a scavenger sandbox, but an experience that stays with you long after the dust settles. The potential is there, the world is rich, the atmosphere is haunting. All it needs is a story worth surviving for.